Hello everybody, it's Ale here. Today's guest is gonna be Dave DiCenso, and here is the interview. I'm here with my teacher and friend Dave DiCenso. We are in the 1140 building in Berklee College of Music, and we're gonna start the interview with Dave, who accepted to be one of the guests for our program. Thanks for watching. Dave, I saw you for the first time on YouTube a few years ago in your performance in Modern Drummer Festival, and that blew me away. It was awesome.
Thank you.
Can you talk a little bit about your experience in the festival?
So basically, I had to sort of meditate all morning. Even when I was there, like the setup and just like being conscious of not wanting to get caught up in trying to trying, basically. Not get caught up in trying to do anything, but just so that when I got up there, I could just sort of follow my muse where it went, you know. Yeah. And that's a lot of work, you know. It's hard for me. I would imagine anybody, but certainly for me to play long solos. It's a lot of work to keep in that place, you know, where you're not judging anything. You're just in the moment, and you're following your muse, and it's taking you to good places. And
your solo reminded me of your concept of universal rhythm. Am I wrong?
Nope, you're right on.
Can you explain a little bit more about the clave concept?
Yes, Universal Rhythms, my book, they're basically claves. The universal rhythms are claves, you know, one bar clave, son, rumba, 6/8 clave. In my book, it's in 4/4. It's a 6/8 clave. It's a 6/8 feel, but everything's notated in 4/4. But so that's another clave, and then the partito alto, which isn't technically called a clave, but it's basically serving the same kind of purpose, where it's a foundational, it's an organizing rhythmic principle, you know, that everything is built upon and around and within.
So what's the application of the universal rhythm concept?
The application of the concept is to listen for it, to recognize it when you hear it. You know, in an effort to quickly get to the heart of a piece of music, whether you're I mean, that's ultimately what we're doing, unless, even as composers, we're trying to get to the heart of the matter. And as journeymen, as side people, you know, hired guns, you know, we come to a piece of music and we want to be able to get right inside that story. And from a rhythmic standpoint, you know, that's what I always do first, is I need to find some rhythmic ground that I can, you know, create my contribution to the music.
To make it more interesting.
Not just interesting, but cohesive. You know, if a guitar player is playing 3, 4, a song down, a boom, dum, dum, or maybe that's a bass line. Boom, boom, dum, ba ba down. So say it's just that. We're gonna, like, that's the bass line to the verse in this pop tune we're gonna record today. We're in the studio, and I'm a session drummer, and I'm gonna be looking for, again, a foundational rhythm that I can relate to that, so that I can not only create what I'm going to say based on what he or she is saying, but also this idea in my mind that just so happens maybe ties in with the guitar player, because the bass player is going da 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 bunny, yeah. And the guitar player might be going, ba-da-dum, don't da-da-dum, ga-ga, don't da-da-dum, ga-ga-ga, don't da-da-dum. So there's your partito alto. No, and so now if that is the case, I'm going to make a decision based on all that information and ultimately try to weave a part into that. So I'm not going to jump full bore on any one thing that's going on, you know. To tell a musical story, to tell the story in song is like a conversation amongst whoever's playing the song, and that conversation is an effort, or is in effort, to tell the story of the song. So it gets pretty complex if you want it to. If I start with a groove, because I want to, you know, maybe I want to write a tune, and I want it to start from, you know, playing a groove that I dig, something I like and makes me happy. So I start from the groove, and I'm going to leave some space, and I could preconceive a clave, a universal rhythm, or not. I could just play the groove, and then now I've got to come up with a bass line. So I go to the same place,
yeah.
You know what I mean? As if I were the session drummer interpreting someone else's tune. So that's a practical application of the concept.
Awesome.
Okay? And what I was doing at the Modern Drummer Festival was basically playing around son clave, 2/3.
Yeah.
You know, and I shifted to a 6/8 thing at one point, and I modulated, I think, at one point to. So I was playing the same clave, I think, if I remember correctly, but I just modulated the
6/8.
time. Yeah. To tell a story in music, there has to be a lot of reference to the plot. There's a lot of repetition involved. You know, in jazz music, it may not be as obvious sometimes in what's being said, but at least it wasn't to me growing up. But, you know, the form is repeating over and over and over. And they're short little tunes, you know. I didn't get that when I was a kid. I was like listening to jazz music and you know, just not understanding it, you know. But you know, it's not so complex. It's pretty. So, I mean, of course, we can take it anywhere we want, but it's like it boils down to a form, you know, and that within that form, you can boil it down within the form to a universal rhythm.
Like macro view and micro view.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so the macro would be the form, micro would be a clave. You know, I mean, it's just, I state it in my book, again.
You want to demonstrate maybe something from
Sure.
your book?